You know, that massive island of ice you probably don't think about too often? Well, it has quietly become one of the most critical geopolitical hotspots on the entire planet.
It really blew up in the headlines with this quote. I mean, when a US president suddenly suggests buying Greenland, it sounds like a joke, right? But here's the thing, it wasn't. It was a massive signal that the world's great powers are no longer looking at a desolate frozen island. They're seeing a massive opportunity.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Why has this incredibly remote place all of a sudden become a key piece on the global chessboard? The answer is literally redrawing the map of the world as we speak.
What we're seeing is something you could call a new cold rush. And no, that's not a typo for Cold War. This is a frantic race for strategic advantage in a part of the world that was, until very recently, completely locked away in ice. You have to remember, for pretty much all of human history, the Arctic Ocean was this giant frozen barrier. The ice was so thick, so permanent, that it was basically impossible for navies or shipping to get through. So it just stayed out of all the great power games that shaped the rest of the world. The change we've seen is, well, it's staggering. On the left, you're looking at the Arctic ice back in the 1980s. And on the right, that's today. The fact is, the Arctic is warming up 4 times faster than the rest of the planet, and the consequences are absolutely redrawing our maps. What this means is that a new ocean is literally being born at the top of the world, and wherever a new ocean appears, you can bet that nations are going to start competing for control over it. And this new ocean, it isn't empty, not by a long shot. It's more like a treasure chest, filled with resources and strategic pathways that are just now opening up, and you better believe the race to claim them is on. So what exactly is becoming accessible? We're talking about stuff that could totally change the global balance. First, new shipping lanes that could shave thousands of miles and tons of money off the trips between Asia and Europe. Then, underneath the waves, you've got an estimated 30% of the world's undiscovered gas and 13% of its oil. But, you know, the biggest prize of all might just be what's buried under the ice itself. We're talking about rare earth minerals. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but these are the fundamental building blocks of our entire modern economy. They're in your phone, in electric cars, in advanced missile systems, everything. And right now, China has a near monopoly on processing them, which makes Greenland's gigantic, untapped deposits a matter of huge national security for the West. And all this, of course, brings us to the key players in this new great game. You've got the United States, China, and Russia, all maneuvering, all trying to get an edge on this new Arctic frontier. The dynamic is pretty clear. The US is using its long-standing military presence to try and keep strategic control. China, which isn't even an Arctic state, is pushing hard with its Polar Silk Road idea, trying to secure resources by investing heavily. And then there's Russia, which is asserting its dominance by reopening dozens of its old Soviet-era military bases all along its massive Arctic coastline. And look, this isn't just theoretical. It's happening right now. A few years back, a Chinese company offered to fund and build brand new airports in Greenland. Well, that set off major alarm bells in Washington. The Pentagon was terrified that if Greenland couldn't pay back the loan, China could just seize the airports, and boom, you've got a Chinese military foothold right next to North America. So the US leaned on Denmark hard, and the deal was killed. It's a perfect snapshot of this new cold rush in action. But it's so easy to get caught up in the superpowers, isn't it? The most important player in this entire story is Greenland itself. Get this. This massive island, 6 times the size of Germany, is home to just 57,000 people. That's it. They're a semi-autonomous nation, technically part of Denmark, but they have this deep, growing desire for full independence. And that desire for independence is right at the heart of their big dilemma. While, yeah, most Greenlanders absolutely want sovereignty, there's a real passionate debate about whether they're actually ready for it. The dream of freedom is crashing right up against some very hard realities. But you can feel perceptions are starting to shift. You can hear it in this quote from a Greenlander. People are starting to recognize the incredible leverage they suddenly have. All of a sudden, the most powerful countries in the world are knocking on their door, and that's creating this whole new sense of potential, of power. So this newfound leverage puts Greenland at a historic crossroads. How do they play this hand? Because both paths, staying with Denmark or going it alone, come with massive risks and massive rewards. And this, right here, is the central conflict. On one side, you have the dream, total control over their future, their resources, their identity. But on the other side, you have the reality, The country runs on a massive annual subsidy from Denmark, about €500 million. They don't have enough skilled workers, and they're battling some really deep-seated social issues. Becoming independent means that subsidy goes away, which means they'd have to find a new way to pay the bills, and that almost certainly means opening the doors wide open to foreign investment. So this leaves us with the ultimate question. In this new era of tension in the high north, Greenland finds itself in this totally unprecedented position of power. Can it actually navigate the interests of these global superpowers to achieve independence on its own terms? Or will the price of sovereignty just be swapping one form of dependence for another, turning into a resource colony for whoever bids the highest? The entire future of the Arctic could very well be decided right here.